is partially sad. It is definitely partially sad, if not 90% sad.
Oh my god, I didn't tell you anything.
Fight with the wall.
I don't know, therapy?
A feral little changeling child, and I love her. Why do I want to say Carrie Soto doesn't dance?
Actually, the annual April Fool's joke is me to Bandit. I officially heard back from my new job. I'm actually starting a new job on Monday. I haven't had a job for a few months. I honestly burned out a lot from my job and was suffering a lot of health problems, and then they also fired me. I definitely needed rest and recuperation and everything. Admittedly, that's a healing journey that I'm probably still on, because who really knows when you're done healing? Anyway, the important thing is I applied for this job. I met with a recruiter who helped me get this position. I went through the typical panels, and then I also did a little bit of extracurricular calls with people where I was asking additional questions, and I really appreciated that it wasn't they were trying to corral me into the role. Every person I talked to made it seem like there was actually great work-life balance and flexibility for this position. It is a remote job, but there is a lot of travel involved. So it is technically 70% travel. It's mostly just driving around. When they say that it's that amount of travel, it's mostly going to customer sites to help them. So I kind of feel like that's almost just commuting to a work environment, an office every day. So it won't be, hopefully, that taxing. That's not always going to be true, and there will be farther distances and longer periods of time that I will have to be there. But I really appreciate that that's, an upfront part of this job, and that it will just overall seemingly be not as exhausting as my last job, but it will still be doing stuff that I love. I loved doing the work I was doing before, but it was just too much to ask of a person to do the number of tasks and deal with the number of clients and stuff that I was doing, and then do a bunch of other jobs on top of that. And this seems a lot more reasonable and manageable. Having a reasonable workload is extremely important, and also having a support system where you're able to say hey, I'm burning out and I need help is also very crucial. That's all of the feel-good work-life balance types of things. On top of that, the exciting stuff is, as I mentioned, this is going to be a travel-intensive job where I'll be driving around a lot. So they're actually buying me a company car. And I also spoke with my new boss, and he asked me, we're gonna need to get you a company phone. Do you prefer Apple or Android? I've always been an Android girl from day one. Never had an iPhone. Honestly, don't plan to. I like Android a lot better. Fight with the wall. I looked up what's the most recent model, and I was okay, well, I've heard good things about the Galaxy S24, and I was sort of nervous about being can I have the latest model, or should I ask for an older model, or what should I do? But I just figured I'll ask, and we'll just see if it's within budget. And my boss was just thanks. It will be used for work, obviously, but I think that's just kind of the fun little slightly glamorous part of the job. I really love to learn things, so the fact that they're going to be paying for some training for me to learn more about structural engineering is very exciting. Today is the day before I start my brand new job. I'm actually going to be working as a software consultant again. That was my last job that I had a while ago, and I am moving into something brand new, which is structural engineering. I used to do mechanical engineering, which was my major in college, and now I'm doing something slightly different, but it will still be problem solving and helping people, and it'll actually be a lot of travel on the road. This is not my brand new car, but I actually will be getting a brand new car from the company, which is pretty exciting. I already got my laptop shipped to me, and I'm gonna be getting a new phone. I am honestly I'm very excited because I'm happy and I have this new job and this is cool, but part of me is also still just generally worried. And I am usually honestly fantastic at my job, no matter what job that happens to be, but it's still really easy to overcommit to certain things and worry a lot, and I'm just gonna be trying to adjust to get used to new things. So with that in mind, I actually am reading a brand new book that I'm super excited about, and I think it's gonna be 5 stars. This book is called Time Management for Mortals 4,000 Weeks. It's a book that you would think is a productivity book, but actually it's kind of the opposite. It's more about how we have to actually enjoy our life, given that it's kind of limited and so much of working culture and the world expects us to just be as productive as possible to maximize our time. But the book begs the question of like, why? Why do we need to do that when we should really be like enjoying and savoring the time that we have, instead of constantly like forcing ourselves and forcing other people to just work and work and work and work and kill ourselves over managing our time, when actually long ago time didn't used to work that way at all. In the old days, time wasn't like it is today. Time was not tracked or measured or anything. When you were looking at farmers who were working on the field, they would just work from morning till night, and there were certain things that you could do based on the sun being in the sky. That's why we have daylight savings and stuff like that. Things actually used to be measured based on how long it took to do a certain thing. So you could say it takes a pissing because it takes that long to literally pee, and that's what they would use to measure time, because they didn't have minutes and seconds or anything like that. They did have monks that were supposed to track time, but it was also kind of based on if they fell asleep watching as the constellations moved. And I think that's incredibly fascinating altogether. But looking at how that changed, and eventually that very, very quickly was industrialized and turned into a manufactured concept for the use of actually kind of exploiting people, surprise, surprise, that has really changed the way that we today think about how we use our time. And this book kind of asks, why don't we let time use you, in the sense that we shouldn't be trying to work as hard as possible so we one day might be able to take that great vacation, but we're not savoring any of the time that we have right now. So like working tirelessly towards retirement or whatever it is, while not taking any vacations or doing anything for yourself in the meantime, means that you are just living this really desperate and unfulfilled life because you are constantly stressed about having to be as productive as possible. So this book honestly is like, I don't know, therapy, kind of. There's a lot of books that I'm like, is this therapy? Because these are seriously speaking to me in so many different ways about concepts that I never imagined as deeply as I am now. And books are magic. I mean, books are amazing for that reason. Thinking about it that way and thinking about how much of my life has been multitasking and trying to be as productive as possible really makes me wonder, am I doing it right, or am I doing it super, super wrong? It may not surprise you that I'm a person with a lot of frenetic energy, and sometimes I just feel like I really need to decompress, trying to rethink what my life would look like, completely modifying the way that I have been operating for so long. I think I'm pushing myself all the time to do things when maybe I don't need to. Something for me to think about going into my first day of work, and also having very recently completed my first ever freelance. It's wild that that's honestly something that has to be said and is a revelation for people, that you should enjoy your life right now instead of waiting until it's almost over to. So it can be such, but actually it's the way it probably this whole philosophical concept being very interesting to me. I'm very excited about what the book will. Hi, it's my first day of work, and wow, everything that could have gone wrong this morning did. Because it always just does. It's just you add one big factor of a thing you gotta do, and then life just instantly gets more chaotic. This morning I figured, okay, I'm gonna get up and get ready, and I'm gonna have enough time to leave from my boyfriend's house to get here where my like work laptop is over there, where I assume we're gonna need to set that up today. So I figured I'm gonna make myself a little pistachio matcha latte at the apartment, because we have all the supplies to do this. It's really easy. You just boil hot water, put matcha powder in it with a pump of pistachio syrup, and put a little milk. And I get to the milk stage, a shelf like this, but like imagine 3 times as big, just everywhere. And the like stuff in the fridge, of course, has fallen on the ground, including glass that now I'm like, okay, I have to obviously like deal with this because it's like, you know, the food and everything that's on the floor.
So I'm listening to this like book all about like time management and like how to best use your time and stuff. And the whole time I'm like, I'm going to be late for my onboarding orientation meeting that's happening at 10 a.m. So like I should have plenty of time to start this thing, so it's gonna look even worse if I'm late. So I'm down here like, cleaning everything as much as possible. My sock was I drove here and I got to the orientation meeting with and then finally we were like, let's take a quick break from the orientation meeting. And I was like, great. And then I could run and take like my glass socks off and I'll have to clean my shoes and stuff later. Like, I'm sure I could have just like purely taken them off, but then I would be cold and I don't want, but you know what? We adapt. We move forward. It's literally fine. Whatever. I had my matcha. It was delicious. I did my orientation meeting. I'm really just doing paper. I have a really good feeling about this place. Just look, and it's really making me think about what my scenario I would, but also I was basically straight up harassed and there were no policies. There's a lot of policies that are in place here where they talk about what is harassment and you're not allowed to do this and it has to instantly get reported. And, if someone is harassing someone else, there's immediate action to be taken, which includes termination of the person harassing you. And I don't know, I guess maybe sad, but also a little inspiring to think that this maybe, it is partially sad. It is definitely partially sad, if not nice. It's nice. Also, they say you're allowed to bring pepper spray with you, like a little keychain pepper spray on the premises, so they're also like very aware of. I'm gonna grab a little bit of lunch, get back to work. Oh my god. I think my first day is over. I'm honestly not totally sure. My day started at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Most of the people I've interacted with so far are not East Coast, but I know there's other people that are also in this time zone. And that used to be a really big problem at my last job because I just felt like I always had to be here from like really early East Coast time to really late West Coast time because I was in charge of so many people. And it was literally such culture shock today when I logged into my work email and I was like, what is that? Oh my god, it's just my calendar. I don't need to actually monitor anyone else's calendar. And then I got off the phone with my boss who was like, get ready to get inundated with a lot of meetings. And I was like, well boy, okay, sure. Like, what am I gonna do? And then he put 4 meetings on my calendar and I was like, is that it? Is the rest coming at any point? And like, I'm not saying this to brag about how productive I used to be at my old job. I'm saying this is amazing. This is incredible. At my last job, I was literally nonstop booked from the moment I started all the way until the day is over for most people. And I was still working after my meetings were over because I was too busy in the meetings to actually do other responsibilities that I had. And I always was in meetings, whether it was something that I really needed to be in or something that I was monitoring for a direct report. It was extremely difficult to actually get my job done, and I think that's what contributed to a lot of my burnout in my last job as well. Again, so far, green flags. It's just going to be like, take the time you need to actually learn the material because you're not going to be effective until you know the material. And I'm like, what? Not a good sign because I was in what was essentially like the training department and we were just expected to like take the information and just shove it down that person's throat until they get it as soon as possible. And like, you gotta hurry because we got other things to do. And that just doesn't seem to be the way in this company / maybe regular companies. The literal work I will be doing, like the job that I signed up for, is almost the same, which is good because that's the stuff I actually loved so much. But I have a very good feeling that the actual environment itself will be the opposite of what I'm used to in the best possible way. And I'm really excited for that. My audiobook about, taking your time and living your life is due in like 3-ish days. And last time it was due in like 24 hours and I just tried to listen to it on 3 times speed. And then I was like, what am I doing? That's the opposite of the point of this book. I'm not going to do that. And I let it get returned and I just took it out again when it finally came back. I'm actually listening to this on like 1.25 speed or something like that, like pretty slow for me because I'm so used to listening very quickly, because I think this book and many other factors that have been on my mind recently have really changed my mind about how I want to consume all of the media that I consume, and especially as like a person who's pretty fairly certain that she has ADHD, it's one of those things where you're like, I need to constantly be doing something or have entertainment and my attention is all over the place. But I really want to try to like focus on smaller things because a lot of the social media that we consume as well encourages that idea to get you to move on and to like buy a product and to hurry and just consume as much as possible. And I kind of just want to consume less and also take my time so I actually remember any of the things I'm doing and that they are actually meaningful. I want to ascribe meaning to the things that I'm doing. So with that being said, I'm gonna head out of here and do some things and leave my desk at 5 p.m. Is that crazy? Oh my god, this is amazing.
Second day of work complete. I wanted to talk a little bit about a few of the revelations I've been having with work. I don't know how much of this is even a reading vlog anymore. I think most of it is just me being like, this is how work is supposed to be? I think I mentioned before that I looked at my calendar and I was like, whoa, I'm only responsible for my own calendar. Wow, that's amazing. In my last job, I was managing and delegating work for everybody. And part of that is you have to share your calendar permissions with other people so that they can see every single thing you're doing. And today, my boss was like, hey, would you mind sharing just titles and locations of your Outlook? You know, I was happy to do it, but I was looking at it and I was like, I got really used to giving every tiny little detail to every person, and I didn't like it. It felt kind of intrusive. There were some people that were asking for permissions and stuff for my calendar that I honestly didn't feel like needed it. And I was in this position of feeling like I had to give it to them, but I really didn't want to. And in this position instead, it's more like, well, here, you don't have to give every detail and delegation access to other people so they can see why you're going to the doctor. Not having somebody over your shoulder, even in a remote setting where they can see what your calendar is and everything, like not having that in my life. And also the added benefit that this job doesn't require a timesheet is already doing wonders for my mental health. Having any kind of system that requires any kind of time tracking, even kind of inadvertently, makes problems for you, because if you're like, wow, I really have to go to the bathroom, or I want to eat a snack, or I need to go for a walk, or anything, I need to take my lunch break, all of it is a mental math conversion you're doing in your head to try to all add up to being 8 hours. Everything was like within a certain category. So it just felt like I always had to work harder and do things for longer to actually add up to a full 8 hours that I fit onto my timesheet. Because where do the breaks go? If you take 2 15-minute breaks, that's a half hour. Where do you put that on your timesheet? Because we were kind of in this sink or swim environment. We were thrown in on day one to pretty much start as soon as possible to get in front of a customer and get to work. But it was extremely taxing to be in that space and feel like my motor must always be on and I can never stop. I just feel that in this place, a lot of things are so different. Today, had to put an authenticator app on my phone to get into some of my different systems, and I was like, that's fine. And he was like, I'm really, really sorry that you have to use your personal phone. Please only do this if you're really comfortable. And of course, you know, you should really only have to do this on your work phone whenever it arrives. It's just not here yet. So it's coming like tomorrow or the next day. And I was like, that's no big deal. But it really made me think like, oh, in my last job, and I think maybe the job before that, we always had to use the authenticator app as an additional line of security to get in. But I never thought twice about having to put it on my phone. This was my device, my personal device, that I had to put work things on. And that was even worse in my last job, where I put Teams and Outlook and stuff on my phone because I thought, well, I'm so busy, I can't even do anything away from my desk without feeling like I am needed and I'm guilty, and like people are constantly messaging me for stuff. So if I put it on my phone, at least I can be portable and I can go to like the kitchen to cook something and make my food and eat it. All of this complaining is to say, wow, this is so much better. I am so happy that it's better. I'm seeing what actual balanced, healthy work is supposed to look like. I'm working literally just normal hours and it feels like such a short day where I'm like, whoa, is this a half day? Like, wow, oh my God. It just makes me very happy that this is a better place that I've landed. I honestly feel bad for most of the people that are still at my old company because it's not just the position, but the culture there wasn't great. I'm learning a lot about me. I've also just found out, once again, that my audiobook is due tomorrow at 2 a.m. I'm on a time crunch once again about my audiobook About Time.
All done with work, heading to Costco to go grab a giant cheesecake because it was recently a friend's birthday and we are seeing him today because we're gonna go play the Avatar RPG. But I also finished 4,000 Weeks. It was really good and honestly kind of life-changing. It's almost the end of the workday. I'm taking a quick break. It's Friday. TGIF, am I right? Oh my god, working for the weekend. I wanted to check in a little bit because my last update was just like, this book changed my life, and then I walked into Costco and didn't update. The book was really good. I feel like it had so many interesting concepts about societal shifts in workplace and in time management and what people think of as productivity and why maybe we shouldn't think that way, why we should rather structure our lives around what makes us happy and what we enjoy rather than just working for the man. And I think that that's really valuable. That's something that doesn't really exist a lot in a lot of education that we experience nowadays. So I felt that the book was extremely valuable. I give it 5 stars. I thought it was super, super, super helpful for me and yeah, kind of life-changing in the sense that I wanted to make sure I was really structuring my life around the things that really matter to me. And I'm not wasting time on any kind of vices or any kind of pursuits that are not nice or helpful or at all a good investment for my future happiness. I feel like when you read a book like this, you can't help but sound like those people who are like, I'm speaking my truth, I'm chasing my bliss. But I get it, you know, like it is try to be happy. Just try to be happy. And the book talks to you about ways to cut through a lot of the bullshit so you can actually get to be happy without being one of those like fuck your life books. It's just how do you cut through the noise and get to the good stuff? And I think that that's extremely valuable. Also, work has been going great and I'm enjoying it a lot. I am training. I wanted to talk about what I've been reading also. So I am currently reading The Stolen Heir, which is, I think, a spin-off duology first book in the Cruel Prince series. I'm buddy reading this with Nicole from Bon Bon Reads. We pretty much just started it, but also it is due back super fast as an audiobook to the library, so I have to hurry up and read as much of it as I can because I'm going to be away this weekend, so not a whole lot of time to actually get reading done. But I am really liking it so far, despite barely remembering that much from the end of The Cruel Prince. I loved The Cruel Prince. I thought the series was so good, so much fun. Do I remember a lot of it? Not really. I do want to reread it, but not now. I am just full steam ahead. But I really like our protagonist, Ren. Ren is a feral little changeling child, and I love her. These big elf fairies showed up to take her away, and they were like, we're your real parents. You have to come with us to the fairy world where you're a queen and you're a princess and you want to come with us. Haven't you ever dreamed of being taken away like this? And she was like, I'm sorry, if I stop dreaming about it, because I have, will you let me stay? Like, she's such a sweet little bean. And she just wants to stay with her adoptive parents in this home where she's taken care of and she loves her family so much, but they prove to her that she is a changeling by changing her appearance and showing her this is what you really look like. And then they're like, if your family still accepts you, then you can stay. But because she looks different, like a beast child, when she goes back to her parents, they're all screaming, they're like, get out of here. And she's like, oh my god, they hate me. Now years have passed, but it still is obviously something that has taken a toll. So it's very, very sad for her. I am enjoying it, but I don't really remember all this stuff about the Court of Teeth or anything like that, or how apparently Ren and Oak were betrothed maybe at the end of the last book or something. I don't really remember any of that. I'm also almost finished with Tiny Beautiful Things, which is, I guess you could say it's nonfiction. It's a little bit like a memoir, but what it actually is a collection of letters from an advice columnist. A lot of people would write in for the Dear Sugar column and say please help me, I don't know what to do with my life. And the thing that differentiated Sugar, the pseudonym person, from most advice columnists is she will really hit you in the throat with an answer where she's just here's all this straight shooting advice and hard truths that nobody wants to hear about how to actually get through this point of time in your life, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm actually just going to tell you the truth. I think that that's very refreshing, but it also is very jarring at times because you're expecting someone to be like, no, everything's going to be fine, and she's like, everything's not going to be fine. You got to get your shit together. It is not good. And I guess it's not like in a sassy way in particular. Like, she still is trying to do it with like respect and caring for the other person. I will say some small little parts of this have slightly aged poorly, but are not terrible either. And also the real reason I wanted to read this was because I saw that there was an adaptation with Catherine, what's her face, who I love. What's her name? Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn is who I was thinking of. I love her. So I just wanted to absorb the content so eventually I could go and watch the show and then be the person who's like, the book was better, maybe. Now years have passed, but it still is obviously something that has like taken a toll. So it's very, very sad for her. I am enjoying it, but I don't really remember all this stuff about like the Court of Teeth or anything like that, or how apparently Ren and Oak were betrothed maybe at the end of the last book or something. I don't really remember any of that. I'm also almost finished with Tiny Beautiful Things, which is, I guess you could say it's nonfiction. It's a little bit like a memoir, but what it actually is a collection of letters from an advice columnist. A lot of people would write in for the Dear Sugar column and say like, you know, please help me, I don't know what to do with my life. And the thing that differentiated Sugar, the pseudonym person, from most advice columnists is she will really like hit you in the throat with an answer where she's just like, here's all this like straight shooting advice and like hard truths that nobody wants to hear about how to actually get through this point of time in your life, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm actually just going to tell you the truth. I think that that's very refreshing, but it also is very jarring at times because you're expecting someone to be like, no, everything's going to be fine, and she's like, everything's not going to be fine. You got to get your shit together. It is not good. And I guess it's not like in a sassy way in particular. Like, she still is trying to do it with like respect and caring for the other person. I will say some small little parts of this have slightly aged poorly, but are not terrible either. And also the real reason I wanted to read this was because I saw that there was an adaptation with Catherine, what's her face, who I love. What's her name? Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn is who I was thinking of. I love her. So I just wanted to absorb the content so eventually I could go and watch the show and then be the person who's like, the book was better, maybe. Hello, I am looking at almost the end of my second week of work. I'm slowly settling in. I'm getting my training done. I'm worried about being behind, but I'm trying to just take that feeling in stride because I don't want to push myself to work super long hours. It's like I still have pretty reasonable work boundaries. Bandit, why are you screaming so much? Bandit's mad because Matt's not home yet. I asked for a few things that I will need. I'm also going to be getting a standing desk, which I'm really excited about. I had a standing desk back when I was working at my first job, and it was the kind that like sits on the desk and you could just move it up and down, but it wasn't an actual standing desk, and I think this will be, but it's just a challenge to try to like find one within budget that will work for everything that I want to do. But I don't know, I'm just excited. Like, you know, it's cool that you actually have like a little bit of a budget that's put aside for your work comfort so you can be effective at work. I did also meet with sales and engineering yesterday, I think, and I was so struck once again with how work is supposed to work. When you're working in a really small company, a lot of the times you have the very common phrase that we all wear a lot of hats. And usually that was something I was told in response to me being like, I have a lot on my plate and I really need other people to help me with this. So can someone else step up and help with this responsibility? And everyone was just like, we wear a lot of hats, we can't help you. That happening over and over and over again, you just totally lose the fact that it is not normal to be doing that much stuff. Realizing like, oh, that's the relationship that sales has with a customer. That's not your job as the consultant to do it. So there were just some things that I was learning while talking with sales where I was like, oh, okay, because I felt like I loved working with my customers almost like every single customer I ever worked with was such a sweetheart. I really, really, really enjoyed working with them. But there were a lot of times where I just felt like I was on the hook for certain answers that I didn't have. So for the most part, it was like, well, just answer the questions as best as you can. There's nothing wrong with being like, do your best. But at the same time, there were definitely other people that those conversations should have been like deflected to for them to handle more appropriately. It's always a personal revelation when I just experience a really normal thing at work and I'm like, that's what it's supposed to be like, man. And I just go for a long time. I'm like, I didn't know it could be like this. And Matt's been talking about this for so long where he's like, I just want you to have a good job that treats you nice. Treats you regular and nice. And regular is nice. I didn't see that for so long because I was just very inundated in a lot of the business practices or the ways that like I was expected to carry a lot. And I am still in a way like grateful that my last job gave me so many opportunities. I met so many great people and I think I like had a lot of fortitude and I'm proud of all the work that I did. I learned a lot really fast. I excelled. I was good at my job, but ultimately it was really, really challenging to maintain any of it and my health was suffering and it was not a good place for me to stay in for any long period of time. So really it's better that I don't work there anymore and I have something that appears to be thus far much healthier. I am honestly like a little concerned about how much travel there is with this job, and I know I knew that going in because they straight up said 70% travel and I still said okay, even though that was my biggest hesitation with even wanting to pursue this job opportunity. But so many people here are like, I love this job, it is so good, I've been here for so long and I'm super happy with it. And I thought I was just gonna like take this job temporarily and now I'm here like 20 plus years and they're also all travel heavy people. So maybe I'll really love life on the road, but I'm just really nervous about it. So we'll have to see what happens. And I'm done for the day. It's 5:18. We're playing D&D tonight. I'm gonna cook a little bit of pork chops. And oh my god, I didn't tell you anything. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. I didn't tell you anything I've been reading. Okay, we have to go back. Okay, so I finished just a few hours ago the 7th or 8th Wayward Children's book, which is Lost in the Moment and Found. And I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to talk about it more in a different vlog, but I didn't think it was like as compelling and exciting as the other books that are in the series that I love wholeheartedly. This one had a little like condensed story that was fully contained. And I guess I was expecting there to be some more ties to some of the other characters because otherwise it just sort of feels like a separate novella in that sense. I wasn't totally unhappy with it, but I just do feel like it was sort of a rushed story in terms of building up to the point of climax and then trying to like resolve everything, and it just happened very, very quickly in a way that I wasn't really super pleased with. That aside, I also have read pretty much half of the Made in Abyss manga, the second half actually, because I watched the first season of the show, and man, that stuff is terrifying and scary and bad but good. So it's not something I would really recommend. You love Uzumaki? Great. If that stuff's happening to children, that's a different story. Despite that, and like how terrifying and upsetting it was with like season 1 was like mostly fine, and then the movie that's in between the 2 seasons being pretty disturbing, I was like, man, I really don't know if I want to continue with this. This is a lot. I at least need to like probably take a breather and do something else first, and then we'll see if I feel like coming back to it. And the next day I just read all of the manga, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, you gotta read this part because this is what's happened, this is the lore, this is whatever. It was disturbing once again and very, very, very dark. But I also I don't even know if I would say like I like the lore, but it's something about like that Lovecraftian thing of like staring into the abyss and the abyss staring back at you that makes you compelled to learn more about what's going on. Now I'm like theory crafting all of this stuff, just trying to figure out like what is really going on,
who is this person? Like, what if, like, you know, multiple people aren't really who they say they are? Trying to, like, discover all the different layers of the story, which is very difficult because apparently the manga doesn't update more than, like, maybe 3 times a year. Having a bit of a hard time trying to figure out what's really going on outside of just Reddit forums and trying to read that stuff. So I've been reading a lot. Just a lot of it is, you know, hearsay. That is my general update. I have a lot of books that just came in on hold, and I also did grab a physical copy of Fourth Wing from the library, so I am going to be trying to read that. Matt's sister is reading that, and Matt's sister-in-law is also reading Carrie Soto something. What is it? I don't even remember what it's called. Carrie Soto Doesn't Quit? Why do I want to say Carrie Soto Doesn't Dance? So I'll be reading all my stuff that I can to try to accommodate for... Oh my god, I still have to read the book club pick, too. Oh, I gotta read something to make room for the holds that are coming in. And I need to read A Fragile Enchantment for the Winders Book Club, and I think we're discussing it at the beginning of April. I need to read Fourth Wing. I need to read Carrie Soto Doesn't Quit, or whatever that book is called. Also, one of our friends is going to be reading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I don't know. I just want to buddy read so bad. I'll be reading something. We'll see. Shocking no one, gentle viewer, I didn't read any of those books that I said I was going to, except for Fragile Enchantment for the Winders Book Club, which I don't even read in this vlog. I wanted to show you a few things because I was going to take you behind the scenes a little bit with the April Fool's video that I made. I basically put together a bunch of fake book covers, and that is my annual April Fool's joke. Actually, the annual April Fool's joke is me to Bandit. But I don't really have too much else to say here. It's just the rest of the time in this March vlog was spent scrambling to make fake book covers for the April Fool's video that I make. As my like annual joke, I make a bunch of fake book covers and I pretend that they're real. And if you haven't seen that video, I haven't said anything. I'd forget the last 25 seconds and just go watch that because it's just a raucous good time. Generally, I realize that in editing this vlog, I talk so much about work and boundaries and things like that, and I just wanted to, I guess, like express that and document this part of my life because I think that it's important to be cognizant of things like that, but I also think it's just important to reflect when you can on what changes you can make. And I was very grateful that I ended up reading a book at the same period of time that helped me to realize that about myself and to kind of figure out where I needed to go from here, and that I was settling into a place that made sense for me. At this point in time of me editing this vlog, I've been working at this job for a little bit over a month at this point, and things are going well still. All smooth sailing thus far, and I'm very happy. And I hope that things continue to be great. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this very chaotic reading vlog, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.